Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. How should spouses who follow different schools manage their practice of sacred law? This, mashallah, uh, this is the wording of the question. How should spouses who manage, how should they manage different schools within a marriage? The reality of the question is that most of the time, what is being referred to is a Shafi'i with a Hanafi, and the one has a madhab that considers a touch by the spouse as breaking the wudu, and the other one has a madhab that says it doesn't break the wudu. So if that is the question, I'm saying this because most of the time this is really where the question comes from. If that is the question, then to simplify it, for the sake of ease, if the husband and wife can get by with this difference of the madahib without any conflict between them, فَبِهَا وَنَعِمَتْ, they should do so. They should observe the madhab. It's not going to be such a calamity in their life that they cannot overcome this. If they cannot, for some reason, continue following the specific madhab's ruling in this regard, so the husband says, I can't deal with this, because every time I want to touch my wife or give her a kiss or hold her hand or something of the sort, then she pulls back saying that I have wudu and I'd like to maintain my wudu, so please don't. So the husband can't stand that. If such a conflict arises, then by all means, the scholars of the four schools of thought, traditional scholars of the four schools of thought, they don't hold the four schools as prisons. There's no ayah or verse of the Quran, or there's no hadith of the Prophet ﷺ that specifically imprisons us to one particular perspective. There are certain things that we need to be cognizant of and that we need to be wary of when it comes to madhab issues. The two primary considerations is, number one, I should not be following dispensations for the sake of following dispensations in every issue that I come across. This would be unlawful. So to specifically look at what's the easiest route for prayer, what's the easiest route for wudu, what's the easiest route for what breaks my wudu, what's the easiest route for zakah, this approach, theoretically it is unlawful. Why theoretically? Because in practice, for somebody to actually do this, they would require tons of sacred law knowledge. They would really need to know all four madhahib, right, in order to accomplish this. So theoretically it is unlawful, but the reality is that most people cannot do this. Some scholars seem to give the impression that following one ruling because it's easier is tatabbu'ur rukhas, which is not the case, right? Following 10, 15 rulings because you find that these rulings are more conducive to your situation in life, so therefore you follow a different school of thought, that's not tatabbu'ur rukhas. Those are 15 issues that you've come across that assists your life and makes practicing Islam easier or even possible for you. Perhaps it wasn't possible for you. So that's still permissible, and Allah knows best. The second major consideration is, of course, talfiq. Now, talfiq is essentially where you take some opinion from one madhab and a different opinion from another madhab, and you put them together, and you end up with something that's not recognized by any school. It's not recognized by madhab A nor madhab B. It's not recognized in Islam. So you look at one madhab says you don't need witnesses for the nikah. Another madhab says you don't need a wali for the nikah. And you put these two together, and then you have a nikah without a wali and without any witnesses. What does that result in? This, of course, is something that no school of thought is going to consider as valid. So that's talfiq. If you can avoid those two issues, right, tatabbu'ur rukhas and talfiq, then understand that a madhab, a school of thought, is a means of practicing Islam. It's a facilitation of practicing the Quran and the Sunnah. It is an interpretation that is coherent in following Islam and following the Quran and the Sunnah without having to check up on every issue oneself. If for the sake of your marriage you need to exit your madhab on one particular issue, still avoiding the principles that I mentioned, and this would resolve the problem in your marriage, there's no issue in doing that. Then you should take valid dispensations that exist firstly within your own school of thought if possible, because that still maintains much more coherence than otherwise. And if not within your own school, then even outside of your own school. So the Shafi'i can follow a Hanafi ruling and the Hanafi can follow a Shafi'i ruling. Again, this is not tatabbu'ur rukhas. This is not following everything that's easy. It's following one particular issue wherein you find a haja, a need for a particular cause that you believe to be a valid one. And marriage certainly is a valid cause. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best.
لا إله إلا الله محمد رسول الله